This is Salam Media, and you are tuned into the
Right, so every day around this time we want to get you fired up, and I mean, really, why wouldn't you not want to get fired up? My guest, as always, is a member of the African Muslims Agency team. Today, it's Ashraf Gangrekar, as always. Now, it's interesting, and Ashraf and I chatted off air to say, well, perhaps the best way for you to move forward is to go backwards because he wants to pick up something from yesterday. So, Ashraf, appreciate your time. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Ashraf. And again, as always, thanks for the opportunity. Hope you're well and the listeners/viewers are doing well as well.
Yes, absolutely fine. Thank you. Right, you want to pick up what we spoke about yesterday? What was
If
that?
you didn't mind, I think yesterday we were chatting, those of us can remember, about the sense of getting connected. And then I mentioned the sense, the zappening phenomenon in Cape Town, and we mentioned the word buka, and you related to it immediately. And then right at the end of this, you said, well, perhaps we should be wondering why it's not happening in Johannesburg and Durban, right? And that got me thinking, and it stuck with me the rest of the day. And so today I'm going to fire up everyone and maybe get myself fired in the process. And that's something we can talk about if I'm back on show tomorrow.
Yeah.
So mm, I want to speak about reaching out. You see, it's my contention, and I'm happy to be corrected, Ashraf. Not, my truth is mine. To say that some of us, we focus on this notion of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, in the vertical relationship that we must have with Allah, and that we focus on how many hatams we must read, and how close we must look in terms of piety. And those are all good deeds, and we will give in charity and dispense of our zakah. It's excellent. And Allah bless everyone and all of us, inshallah. But today I want to speak about the sense of reaching out and connecting with Allah's creation. And the people I want to speak about is sometimes people that we overlook. And these are the people who work for us in our homes, in our businesses, and quite honestly are often the muaddins in our mosque. And I want to speak predominantly about the Malawian community. And so Cyclone Freddy, those of us who followed the news, decimated many, many areas. Over 200 people have died in Malawi. So Great African Muslims Agency is active in the area. We're busy feeding, restoring water wells, the mosques that we have built by Allah's grace and the generosity of our donors. People are taking shelter therein. But it made me think in terms of reaching out that Ramadan must be an excellent opportunity that we connect. And I think personally, last week I ended up having iftar at a brother's place, and he's from Morocco. So nice, ordinary guy, simple, lovely family, etc. But in terms of a cultural and friendship experience, completely different. We sat on the floor, and because the dinner itself, iftar itself, took place at the table. But the breaking of the fast took place like this. So the adhan, there was dates with cucumber in it, and then a glass of milk. And culturally, this was a new experience for me. Maybe everybody else does it in their home, and that's great. And then it made me wonder, so that how many of us, Ashraf, are actually connecting and reaching out to others, perhaps of a different culture, different ethnic groups. They too are fasting. And I'm going to be, maybe be tramping on toes, as it were. I know up north, and to a certain extent in the Cape as well, many of the muazzin are from Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, whatever. How many of us have actually invited them home, maybe with their families, and said, come and eat with us? And I'm sure it has happened. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but almost as a norm for us individually to reach out to another, not necessarily lesser. But it would be preferable if it is perceived to be somebody from a different socio-economic group. And sometimes I find that we give of our food, I'm not going to use the word leftovers, to those who do our gardens, clean our homes, but that might not be culturally part of their food. So I'm saying maybe let's reach out and ask them, what do they have for iftar if they're lucky to have a meal? What's the type of foods that they make? And then maybe actually invite them to sit at our table and not only be cleaning the table, not only be cleaning the place that we make salah, etc., etc., but that we actually create this connection and reaching out, because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, I've been sent to perfect human character. And part of human character for me, a major part, is the sense of humility and connecting with Allah's creation. When we don't, or we close our mind to something like that, I feel in Ramadan we miss an excellent opportunity. When our hearts are softened and the sense of generosity, and I tried yesterday to speak about community spirit, we miss this opportunity to say to ourselves that let me reach out to of Allah's creation so that post Ramadan, that inshallah this becomes a habit that I can maintain. And this for me must be part of Ramadan, the accumulation of good habits to develop good character. For good character on the scales in the day of judgment, they will weigh heaviest. So reach out.
Well, I'll tell you what, if this was an interview in the classic sense, we could have a 1 hour conversation on all the things you said. It's not an interview, it's a connection that we have on air. So I'll leave it at that, accepting to say there's so much you've said is incredibly thought-provoking, and it's done and said to shift society, and I'll take it in that spirit. I've always said, one thing is yourself being having a seat at the table, and I'm talking about the business table, right, which people aspire to. But the other is to ensure that you also create another seat for somebody else at that table. And if the table is too small, why about making the table bigger? Because there's always ways to do that. So many people, literally and figuratively, have no way to get a seat at the front table. It's a challenge that we have throughout our country, and that reflects the disparities, the economic and inequality disparities that we have in our country. So, Ashraf, thank you for your time. You've certainly got me thinking, and I'm going to watch this again. I'm going to watch the recording. It is that important.
Bro.
Absolutely. There we are. Ashraf Gangrekar, speaking on behalf of the African Muslims Agency, reaching out and connecting and creating those spaces even in your homes. We'll talk finance in a moment.